Founders Park Media and Samurai 7 Books presents Cosmic Champions. Written by Mark Caldwell Jones. Read for you by Play AI. Dedication for Maverick, Juliet, and Hannah. There are only 2 lasting bequests we can hope to give our children. One of these is roots, the other, wings. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Epigraph. It's precisely when you feel like giving up that you must summon the courage to carry on. It is said, God favors the valiant. Thus, we know the divine powers of the universe grant strength to the bold and help the brave persevere. Never accept defeat and never surrender. Even though it may seem all your dreams are burning to ash, remember that it is by these flames a champion's heart is forged. The Cosmomancer's Creed. Cosmic Champions. Part 1. Let the game begin. Chapter 1. The Decimator's Cave. Titan knew the one thing that would save his life was inside the cave, and there wasn't a moment to spare. He stepped forward and thrust his glowing sword into the boulder blocking the entrance. The explosion created a burst of light and sound, illuminating and rattling everything within 1,000 yards. He dabbed the sweat off his young tan face, combed the wavy black hair out of his eyes, and examined the results of his attack. He was a powerful warrior, but his first strike had barely made a mark. He'd have to do better, and do it much faster. Battle Moon folklore told that a corrupt wizard had magically sealed the cave eons ago, ensuring its powerful treasure was protected by the most terrifying of monsters. Could he break through? If he did, would he survive the horrors hidden inside? Even though he didn't wield magic like his teammates, he had some of the best weapons a champion could own. He twirled his starstone blade and stabbed the boulder again and again. Boom, boom, boom. Over and over, the sword disappeared as it cut through the rock. He imagined the fright the cave-dwelling creatures within must have experienced when the shaft of otherworldly magic pierced their dark domain. Boom, boom, boom. Finally, the barrier exploded, and Titan stepped through the smoke, past the settling debris. For added protection, he placed his Spartan helmet on his head and peered through its enchanted slits to inspect his surroundings. There it was, just as the lore described. The ancient Manuel, topped by its fabled stone seal. A large wheel that looked like a macabre Halloween treat. Instead of Rice Krispies and melted marshmallows, this was a disc of human skulls, held together by melted gold. A web of wine-colored strands that seemed to pulse with life covered the shiny disc. Altar fungus! Titan smiled and rubbed his gauntlet over the growth. It only forms on rare, magical items. This has to be it. Using his sword, he hacked away the strange vines to reveal the golden relics. Their radiant color illuminated the walls and stalactites above, allowing him to admire his strange discovery. He noticed the center skull was larger, less human-like, and bore a set of fanged teeth. Something lay in that terrifying mouth, propping the jaws open slightly. A small box, perhaps. Yes, finally, the Wraith's Skull of Resurrection, he cheered. He raised his sword over his head as if he'd just won a battle, then recited the artifact's attributes from memory. Enchanted by the mythic Evercore crystal, this item resurrects the user within 60 seconds of death, regenerating both health and mana to 100%. The champion in possession of the skull will manifest the Wraith's mark in battle. The more mana the warrior spends in combat, the more he heals his nearby allies. It was the ultimate buff. There was nothing more powerful. Such artifacts were never easy to secure. Were there more enchantments protecting it? It was time to find out. He was working his fingers around the wraith's skull when something moved overhead. The stalactites came alive. "Cave blights!" he yelled. Every muscle in his lithe, slender frame tensed. Oh no, not now! The giant insect stirred like a nest of agitated cockroaches and skittered down the cave wall to attack, each of them eager to sink their oversized mandibles into his flesh. He raised his shield in defense and stood his ground. Surely, he was the first substantial food source in ages, and they looked ravenous. He stepped back a few paces, eyeing the entrance. Since his shield, sword, and armor were a mythical set, he could absorb substantial damage, even from magical attacks. But the blights seemed innumerable. He wouldn't last long against such a large hive. He may have to run for it, but was that even possible now? As if sensing his plan, the first wave of blights pounced. Titan raised his shield, swatting the creatures back across the cave. Curse these bugs! The blights were not giving up, but neither would he. He was determined to have the wraith's skull, and wouldn't leave without it. "Started the party without us, did you?" a familiar voice asked. Titan turned toward the speaker, and a magical force field descended around him just as a second wave of blights attacked. "Dude, what are you thinking? No one survives this gnarly cave without backup." Ingus, a young mana-weaving monk, materialized out of the ether only a few feet away. Genghis was both Titan's best friend and the team's healer. He was a head shorter than Titan and wore a wispy goatee, and one of his ever-present smiles. "I've got this," Titan said. "Get back to the base." "Nah, bro. You're our glorious leader. We can't let these bugs eat you. The entire team's coming to help." As usual, Genghis's voice was warm, friendly, and completely free of judgment. He wore ivory-colored leather armor and carried a staff of gnarled wood wrapped in transparent energy. Its crystal tip glowed with a soft orange light as he produced another one of his protection spells. The sudden formation of the new barrier zapped the blights as they pounced. One by one they tumbled over, black and stiff like burnt bacon. "You touched the well before disenchanting it," Aspie, a Quilodian elf, scolded Titan as she materialized next to the two boys. "It's an obvious trap. If you open that seal, everyone in this cave dies. That's why I told you all to hold the line at the sanctum. If I get this, we'll win the game." "But that's impossible," she said. Aspie had the gleaming look of someone who'd been kissed by the summer sun. Her hair, tied back in braids, was the color of a winter storm. Her eyes glittered like an emerald forest. She wore elven chainmail and a silver Quilodian dagger sheathed at her hip, but her principal weapon was a recurve bow made of mysterium called the High Guard Claw. It was carved with swirling patterns and runes that flickered like candlelight. Titan liked her, but he often ignored her ideas, seeing them as too careful. She had named herself the Asp in a failed attempt to assert a dominant persona. It hadn't really worked, and the team clipped the name down to Aspie. There was no better archer for ranged attacks, but her attempts at leadership muddied the waters. Titan felt she was always getting in the way of what he wanted to do. Like right now. Aspie muttered a new incantation, causing another magical barrier to drop over the well, blocking Titan from it. As the force field expanded, it pushed the blights back into the corners from where they had emerged. The bugs scratched and snapped, too furious to give up. Taking another tack, they circled around the champions, sensing somehow that the magic would reach its limit and their dinner would eventually be served. "Aspie, dang it, we need the Wraith's skull," Titan argued, pointing at the artifact. "We don't have a chance without it." Two more teammates materialized behind Aspie, obliterating a cluster of blights as they appeared. "We're running out of time, people," Ripghoul said. Though barely visible in the shadows, the young rogue hunter looked formidable, fingering his two shadow-weave daggers. He was athletically built, with long legs, a slender torso, and a tan, square-jawed face that others couldn't help but find easy on the eyes. He was agile, like a cat, and there was a feral intensity in his eyes that burned with a deep-seated desire to prove himself. "The cannibals are advancing up Dead Man's Road," Ripghoul said. "Our skulks won't hold them off much longer." "Guys, what are we doing in this nasty cave anyway?" Bad Miznas asked. Miz was a Tychonian Amazon, a foot shorter than Titan and many feet wider. Built for brawling, she was the team's tank. No one enjoyed being on her bad side, including Titan. She held a torch in one hand and an axe in the other. Her voice was a soft but authoritative one, and raspy from constantly yelling over the sounds of battle. Periodically, she swung her torch to ward off the blights. "Geez, Titan," Miz said. "They've just destroyed our last tower. I need your help defending the cornerstone." "He's going to get killed again," Aspie said as if it were a foregone conclusion. Titan rolled his eyes. "The Decimator won't be a problem if you noobs would just get out of here." The Decimator was one of the most feared creatures on the Battle Moon. A notorious monster that hid in caves and snacked on treasure seekers, its nesting place was always changing at random. No one could be sure he'd attack here. And with the skull, it wouldn't matter. "I know you want to make a name for yourself. That's cool and all," Genghis said, shrugging his shoulders apologetically. "But I don't have enough mana left to save all of us, especially against the big guy. We should clear out while we still can. I've got this. Meet me at the cornerstone," Titan ordered, pointing at the cave entrance. "I'm right behind you." "That's what you said last time," Ripghoul said, snapping his shadow cloak around his body. "And the time before that?" Bad Miznas growled. "Juffs, zip your lips and move out. I can do this," Titan protested. "I don't need anyone's help." But they wouldn't leave, and another round of bickering broke out. They argued until, without warning, Titan brushed past Genghis, ripped the magical staff from his friend's hands, briefly pointed it at the monk to drain his remaining mana, then twirled the staff around. The resulting spell created a new force field that expanded outward, gathering Titan's unsuspecting teammates in a net of glowing energy and pushing them toward the cave's entrance. They yelled and cursed, but Titan ignored all of their protests and pleas. He wedged the end of the staff into the cave's floor so it stood upright and continued energizing the barrier. Then he turned back to the treasure. Finally, with his doubting war party restrained and the blights back in their dark holes, he could focus on what was important. Titan fumbled with the well's seal, trying desperately to get the wraith's skull in his hand. It seemed impossible to dislodge. He searched the treasure for runes or magical triggers. All the while, its bony grin seemed to be frozen in a perpetual laugh, mocking his efforts. Brute force seemed like the only option. He'd have to break the entire seal, hoping the wraith's skull would remain intact, and run like hell once he had it in hand. Sneaking both hands under the edge, he discovered that gold-dipped skulls were very heavy. He strained with all his might and pushed the seal over. It crashed onto the cave floor and broke into several pieces. A powerful gust of noxious air blasted Titan backward. Following this, a giant purple worm erupted from the opening, like a monstrous jack-in-the-box. The serpent was as big as a dinosaur and as long as a bus. Its entire length was a bloated mass of pulsing flesh, mottled with a purple and black striped pattern. Green ichor and yellow pus oozed from its pores, and it smelled like an unholy mix of rotten eggs, spoiled milk, and old cheese. This was the decimator. It slithered over the golden skulls, crunching them underneath its weight. Titan noticed its body ended in a round blob of a head with a gruesome mouth full of razor-like fangs. The mouth appeared to smile when it saw Titan. "Finally, the dinner bell has rung," the decimator growled, puffing out its chest and spreading its tiny T-Rex arms like it wanted a hug. "To whom do I owe the pleasure?" "The name's Titan, you foul beast. Return to the Underrealm, or die!" Titan swung his sword at the creature, but the decimator easily avoided it, then swiped Titan with a claw, throwing him across the cave and into a wall. As Titan collapsed in a heap, the monster laughed in a deep, booming guffaw. "Titan," it jeered, "what a very pretentious name for a small creature like you. Do you mind? I think I prefer to call you Breakfast." The monster roared and showered Titan with a blast of noxious phlegm. The fluid sprayed over his armor and sizzled like acid. Titan eyed the wraith's skull. It was finally free, but now lay amongst the debris upon which the monster's hulking frame was slithering and trailing its grotesque slime. Meanwhile, Titan's teammates, still trapped behind the magical barrier, watched helplessly as the monster closed in. "Oh, man, he's done for," Ripghoul shouted. "Release the force field," Osby yelled. "We can help you." "The big dummy doesn't want our help," Miz said. "Isn't that obvious?" "We have to help him. If he dies, we lose the round," Genghis said dejectedly. Titan scrambled back to his feet and swung his sword wildly at the decimator, trying to land one blow. But the monster was too fast, dodging and weaving while undulating its snake body. After several of Titan's expert sword thrusts failed, the decimator twisted in a graceful spin and cracked its tail like a whip, putting Titan flat on his back. His sword clattered to the cave's floor and spun out of reach. The decimator closed in, snapping its venomous jaws, and bit down on Titan's leg. Titan screamed. He could hear the crunch of his armor, the sizzle of the creature's acidic venom, and the breaking of bones as it tightened its jaws. Then it lifted him into the air and shook him like a dog shakes a toy, before dropping him again. Titan fell, banging his head on a large rock as he landed. Dazed but not down, he crawled on his stomach and reached for his sword. As the monster closed in for another attack, Titan rolled over to find the perfect opportunity. The decimator's soft underbelly was exposed. He hurled his sword like a spear straight at the evil worm's heart. The decimator moved lightning quick and caught the flying sword, then spun and flung it back with twice the force. The acid-covered blade impaled Titan through the center of his chest. "No!" Genghis yelled, desperately trying but failing to cast a healing spell. "Ouch, Breakfast, that's gotta hurt," the decimator said, exposing its endless rows of fangs in a wide smile. Titan held up an arm to shield his face just as the decimator hit him with the final deadly blow. The mocking laugh of the grotesque creature echoed through the cave until another disembodied voice, like an unseen god, delivered a terrible announcement. "Your teammate has been slain." Slowly, all the color left Titan's face, proving life had drained away, leaving him stiff as the magical armor he wore. Then the decimator picked him up and ate him like a hot pocket. As Titan's final moments played out, it seemed time and space were torn apart like cloth. Refusing to watch that stomach-churning scene any longer, reality flew away, past the putrid Monoel, the unclaimed wraith skull, and out of the cave. And the retreat continued as if existence were a kite being yanked backward through the air, past Titan's distressed teammates who prepared to fight the still hungry Decimator. Faster now, reality rocketed away from the alien jungle, ascending through the Battle Moon's atmosphere into space and beyond. Until, by some trick of magic, what was real emerged in another realm altogether. Here, a crowd of Earthborn adolescents cheered a scene that played on a giant monitor hanging over an arena filled with thousands of rabid gaming fans. What had seemed real only seconds ago was, to this world, just a game called Cosmic Champions. This event was the 8th annual GameCon Western Regional Tournament in Denver, Colorado, United States of America, Earth. And here, a legend was about to be born. Chapter 2. Alex Garcia, a handsome 15-year-old athletic-looking high school student, sat on the stage, tapping his high-end gaming keyboard like he was Eddie Van Halen playing Eruption. His chestnut eyes were narrowed slits of extreme concentration before bulging into shocked dinner plates. His hands never left the keyboard except to brush his sweaty brunette bangs from his eyes. The SPARKLES MODFIA, Alex's 5-player esports team, wore space-age earphones and matching jackets emblazoned with their team logo. A bedazzled dragon clutching a claw full of sparkling fireworks. They sat next to Alex in large gaming chairs that gave them the appearance of being Formula One racers. 2 teammates sat on one side of Alex, and 2 sat on the other. None of them smiled. Instead, they growled and cursed at Alex as they fought to extradite themselves from the death trap that Alex had selfishly led them into. Across the stage near the main monitor was the Shoutcaster's table. Cameras streamed their commentary, combining it with the gameplay video and shots of the players in real time. They projected all of this onto giant monitors hanging over the raucous GameCon audience in the convention center arena. Despite the deafening roars of the crowd, the 2 Shoutcasters continued their play-by-play of Titan's fight with the Decimator. Shoutcaster Jim Gideon, a bald-bearded fellow who looked like a lumberjack in a banker's suit, leaned into his microphone and gasped, "Larry, I can't believe this crazy turn of events." "A fatal mistake by one of the league's best players," Shoutcaster Larry Rizzo replied. The heavy-set, curly-headed man hit his forehead with a dramatic dope slap. "I'm shocked, to say the least." The crowd was shocked, too. They let out a collective gasp as they watched the deadly fight within the cave play out. The video game monster called the Decimator picked up Alex Garcia's avatar, Titan, and ate him. Moments later, it burped, and Titan's ghost apparated out from the monster's big gut and vanished in a swirl of magical energy. Titan tried to defeat the most powerful jungle boss completely alone, Jim said. Experienced players know that never works. "What was he thinking?" Larry replied. "Okay, folks. Looks like Titan's death timer is maxed. Too bad he won't regenerate in time to save his teammates." Alex Squad, now no longer looking like a team but a group of tantrum-throwing toddlers, sat on one side of a transparent plexiglass barrier from another 5-person team, called Creep Cannibals. The Cannibals presented like a team, confident they were about to win. "It's understandable why Titan would want the Wraith Skull right now," Jim said. "Yes," Larry nodded. "That artifact resurrects its user to 100%. Then gives a champion several minutes of invulnerability," Jim added. "But, as we see here, few players have the skill to acquire it. Alex Garcia, a.k.a. Titan, has made a lot of fans by attempting the impossible in his never-ending quest to become a legendary-level player. But that wasn't the move of a champion, was it, Larry? Jim eyed his companion knowingly. I'm afraid you're right, Jim. That strategy doesn't match the spirit of the game. It was true. The rank of legendary was Alex's undeniable obsession. In the first few weeks of playing Cosmic Champions, not knowing anything about the different rewards, he'd lucked out and almost achieved it. While others said his brush with fame was sheer chance, Alex decided it was his destiny, and the obsession was born. Becoming legendary required killing 10 champions in 10 seconds. The only way it was ever achieved was by acquiring the Decimator buff, and immediately taking out an entire team, once, then killing them a second time, the moment they respawned. The legendary status instantly converted your player avatar to a permanent champion. This was like having your number retired in other sports. It forever enshrined you in game lore and the pantheon of competition winners. The primary reward, a check for $500,000, 0 cents, was the carrot on the stick, along with another stream of income from players who paid for skins and items associated with your champion. This was what Alex wanted most. He didn't care about the fame or the notoriety among other Cosmic Champions players. The money was the end goal. Why? Because the lack of money had torn his family apart. Lack of money was what his two parents argued about incessantly and had led to his father moving several states away. It was the lack of money that had forced Alex and his mom to move into a dumpy apartment on the wrong side of town, with little hope of ever affording something better. In fact, money issues had been so bad that he had to get pet food from the local food bank to feed his dog Dingo. That moment was the lowest of lows, and from that minute forward, he had sworn he'd find a legit way out of their problems. Of all the impossible dreams, becoming a legendary Cosmic Champions player seemed the most doable. But no one watching Alex's current disastrous tournament round knew his backstory. They just saw a kid, selfishly and stupidly, pursuing his ridiculous obsession. Larry shook his head in dismay. There's no virtue in becoming a legend at the expense of your own team. All eyes turned back to the broadcast to watch the carnage unfold. The creep cannibals had ambushed the surviving members of the Modfia as they fled the Decimator's cave. Now the Modfia were surrounded with minimal health and had nowhere to run. Ladies and gentlemen, because Titan drained his healer's mana, the cannibals are ganking the Modfia with devastating effect. God, it's a slaughter. Titan must feel horrible. This will force the Modfia to call good game. One by one, the avatars for SPARKLES MODFIA were slain by the avatars from the creep cannibals. When the in-game announcer declared the massacre complete with all members of the team eliminated, Joey Lech-Yun, the 16-year-old Korean-American leader of the creep cannibals, stood up whooping and hollering, celebrating the kills. I just made SPARKLES MODFIA my bitch, Lech yelled. Dead last, the creep's second-in-command, pointed an accusatory finger at Alex, then laughed and humped the clear divider like a dog in heat. Watch your teammates die, Titan, you curly piece of poo. Deadlast laughed. Alex slammed his headphones onto the table. What's wrong, little baby? Lech mocked, flashing an exaggerated frown face. It's just a game, right? Seconds later, the Sapphire Sanctum's cornerstone exploded, destroying the Modfia's base and ending the round. Alex's team slumped in despair. Yeah, sure, it was a game, but the mood said otherwise. This was total devastation, and the game's computer made her last announcement confirming that fact. Game over. The SPARKLES MODFIA has been defeated. Silence hung in the air over the convention center. The entire GameCon crowd appeared stunned. Even Alex's teammates refused to get up from their chairs or even speak. This made it worse for Alex, as he sat there, shocked, baking in the fiery hell of his terrible defeat. The anguish appeared eternal, until the PA system squelched, and the shoutcasters resumed their commentary. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Creep Cannibals win the second round of the final playoff game." Shoutcaster Larry threw his hands up to emphasize the news, and a wave of applause erupted from the audience. The crowd seemed evenly split. Half the arena cheered for the Cannibals, while the other half booed to support the Modfia. 2 games down, 1 to go. Can SPARKLES MODFIA battle back? We'll take a 15-minute break to reset. Stay tuned. Inside the Modfia's booth, the pressure of the defeat finally exploded. Jed Rip Ghoul Rivers, a ninja-like assassin in the game, sprang from his chair and lunged at Alex, stabbing him in the chest with a finger like it was one of his magical daggers. "Idiot! You can't kill the Decimator without the whole team. It's the way they rig the game." "I could have done it if you 4 hadn't panicked like noobs," Alex shouted angrily. "You want to be a star at our expense? Slurp my sweaty balls." Jed was an attractive boy with coffee-brown eyes, long, straight midnight hair, bronze skin, and a square jawline. He was a few inches taller than Alex and thin, with some decent muscles that gave him the appearance of a young basketball player. He grabbed a handful of Alex's shirt. Alex vaulted from his seat and pushed Jed backward, throwing his headset at him. "What do you know, Jed? You're the worst player on this team." Jed cocked his fist as if to hit Alex. Alex's stocky teammate, Ms., grabbed Jed by the back of the shirt and yanked like she was restraining her pit bull. "Easy does it, Rivers," Ms. said. "Have you lost your dang mind?" 16-year-old Mizzy, Bad Mizzness Howard, differed from her game avatar. In real life, she was an African-American female who wore bold and bright makeup on her light brown skin. She had rosy cheeks and hazel eyes. She stood 5.5 feet and preferred faded jeans and stylish rock band t-shirts that complemented her curvy figure. A goth punk kinda girl, she rocked pink skull earrings and an aggressive purple faux hawk that matched her general attitude. While as the team's strongest player, she was equipped with an excellent set of muscular arms, both inside and outside the game. It wasn't a problem playing team bouncer and stopping the fight before it got worse. "Let me go, Ms., Jed complained. "Calm your skinny ass down and I will." "None of you can handle the pressure at this level," Alex shouted. "I should have known that. Now I'll never become legendary. See, he doesn't care about anyone but himself." Jed pointed at Alex accusingly. "That's why he snuck off to the cave. We needed that artifact," Alex argued. "Why? You already have the butt of constant wiping," Jed said. "And you with the mouth of needless whining," Alex countered. Jed threw his headset at Alex, striking him hard in the chest. Alex lunged at Jed. Then it was a flurry of fists and fingers and insults, pushing, shoving, and cussing. When Alex took an actual swing at Jed, the crowd reacted in shock, reminding everyone the cameras were still running. All eyes were on the argument. The Creep Cannibals, their victorious foes, stood on the other side of the team divider, enraptured by what they saw. The Modfia's meltdown was an obvious blessing in disguise, one of the best things that could happen at this point in the tournament. And it appeared to be incredibly entertaining to the crowd, who laughed uproariously. Alex scanned the big screens. He couldn't deny he looked like a complete ass. And it was obvious the others felt the same. "You know, Alex, Jed is right. I should let him whip your butt." "Scratch that. I should help him," Ms. said. Louis Genghis Cho, a slim 15-year-old Korean-American boy, decked out in rock-aware sweats and sucking on his favorite THC licorice, was the team's healer. He looked crestfallen because none of his healing magic was going to fix this mess, but he tried anyway. Everyone, calm down. Let this bad energy wash away. What kind of team are we if we turn on each other? Genghis implored. No team at all, but it's not the first time this has happened in the middle of an important competition, Aspie said. Yeah, she's right. I vote we make Aspie the team captain, Jed yelled. Alex shot an angry look at Aspie. Melanie Aspie Wells was a cute, short-haired blonde with green eyes, milky white skin, and elfin features that matched her game avatar. She was blessed with a treasure trove of intelligence, but burdened by a severe lack of confidence. Aspie knows that's not a good idea. I know as your behavior is grounds for substitution, Aspie fired back. What? Alex's mouth dropped open. Dang straight, finally someone is talking sense, Jed clapped. Ms. crossed her arms and nodded. Don't act surprised, Alex. We've talked about this 100 times. No, guys. Alex is our highest-rated player, Genghis said. I know he's your best friend, Aspie replied. But what's best for the team? Genghis and Aspie were the most sensitive players in the Modfia, and identified so strongly with their virtual characters, they used their nicknames in real life. Yeah, Genghis, he did just drain you of all your magic and steal your weapon. Basically stabbed you in the back, Jed added. Genghis shook his head. But I know it's not like that. Alex puffed out his chest and held up his hands. Guys, we're in the middle of the championship. If we win this round, we advance to the winner's circle. The big money. You're benching me now? The idea was inconceivable. We want to win, dickwad, Jed fumed. We have an alternate, and he'll do what's best for the team, Aspie said. Everyone turned to stare at Chuck Chesterton, who was in the corner seemingly oblivious to the war raging around him. The poor kid looked like Napoleon Dynamite and was picking his nose, seriously digging deep for some potential nugget. You're replacing me with that nostril goblin? Sorry, Alex, you're out, Aspie said. You are such a freaking robot, Aspie. Don't you care how close we are to being real champions? Alex was furious. I don't know what that even means. Aspie was flustered, like she always was whenever there was any conflict. I just know you broke our trust. Really? That's what you're worried about right now? Trust? What about winning? I mean, if you're the new team leader, isn't winning your priority? Aspie looked around at Alex and the rest of the team with confusion, like she was actually considering that. Oh, heck no, Ms. said. You're not blaming this on her or anyone else. Let's not blame this on anybody, Genghis said, raising his hands. Let's take a deep breath and start over. Aspie took this literally and pulled out her inhaler. Meanwhile, Alex was sure they'd reached an impasse. He'd lost the game and now was losing the battle for the hearts and minds of his teammates. He could see it on their faces. They were too angry at him. This was hard to accept, knowing it was his skill that had helped them get into the tournament. He really liked all of them, but they didn't seem to understand his drive. Beating the creep cannibals wasn't the end goal. The point was becoming the best possible player, but none of the team saw things that way. They just wanted to have fun, win some money, and go about their lives. They didn't understand. This was his only chance to make something of his life. This was all he had. If he couldn't secure the legendary rank and the financial rewards that came with it, all the time and money he'd spent on the game would be wasted. His whole life wouldn't matter. Ms. stepped in between Alex and Aspie. Look, man, this is a team sport. If you can't share the win, you're nothing but a prick. And I hate pricks. Burn, baby, burn, Jed teased. That was a lesbian joke, right? Jed reached over to give Ms. a high five, but she rolled her eyes and left him hanging. Get out of my way, Jed, she said, leaving the team's cubicle. Ejected, Jed mimicked Miz, shoving Genghis aside and storming out. Guys, come on, Genghis called, trailing after them. Come back. We can work this out. Aspie stepped toward the door, then turned around. Maybe you're right, Alex. If I can't get everyone on the same page, I'm no better than you. And if we won't work together, what's the point of having a team anyway? She gave Alex one last look of curiosity, as if she was desperately trying to compute the impact of that insight. After a few seconds of awkward glaring, she too turned and left the room. All the oxygen seemed to leave with her, because Alex couldn't breathe. His heart hurt as well. He clutched his chest and prayed it was all a nightmare. The team was falling apart at the key moment when they needed each other the most. To make matters worse, they had one more round to play with their rivals, the Creep Cannibals. The Cannibals were a notoriously vile group of players. Good sportsmanship was not one of their team's values. Alex watched them filing out of their cubicle onto the stage and wondered how to take them down. Lech was their leader. Then came the rogues gallery of the most controversial players in the gaming world: Pixel, Starminx, Vertigo, and Deadlast. 2 girls, 3 guys, all natural gamers who seemed bred to dominate this kind of competition. Of all their skills, they were known for one overarching masterful strategy: humiliation. And they seemed intent on using that tactic, no matter how unnecessary it was at this point. Lech laughed and pointed at Alex. Man, your team breakdown is evil, chaotic. Way to implode, loser. They can't get it up on the field or IRL. That trophy and check are ours for sure. Starminx laughed, pointing at the dais and the prize lit under a pink spotlight. Without warning, Miz was back, stepping in to defend Alex, with her mouth running miles ahead of her normal civility. I heard all that trash talk, creeps. Back your messy rears off my teammate before I thump you, Miz hazed, savoring every syllable of the threat. Big talk, black and thick, you're going down, Vertigo replied, slamming a fist in her hand. Girl, you did not just say that. Miz stormed toward Vertigo, who was half her size. Hey, creeps, Jed purred. Everyone turned around to see Jed was hovering over the cannibal's equipment table. He held a fresh can of soda, beads of sweat hanging on the aluminum skin as he cracked it open with a hiss. Don't you do that, man, Pixel yelled. Jed acted as if his hand was possessed, then comically tilted the can, pouring its contents all over their expensive keyboards. Oh, dang, I'm so not sorry. An explosion of curses erupted from the cannibals as they lurched back to their table in a futile attempt to save their equipment from the soda. Suddenly, Jed's can and the wet keyboards, along with curses and fists, were flying around the room. Jed laughed, enjoying every minute of being in the middle of it. The 2 teams fought their way onto the main stage, brawling like mad cats, totally forgetting the massive audience was still watching their every move through the jumbotrons. The crowd went crazy, more excited than they had been for normal gameplay. This was real gladiator action after all. Even the shoutcasters couldn't resist contributing to the moment. Jim and Larry leaned in, tracking the action while the snowball of players pathetically kicked, flailed, scratched, and screamed as they rolled around the stage. Larry, we've got an unscheduled 5v5 melee on stage. Dandelions and dipping dots, Jim. The cannibals just dove on Ripghoul with no damage control whatsoever. Genghis has swung a big roundhouse with his headphones, smacking Starminx's backside. That leaves their flank vulnerable. Here comes Bad Nizness right up the lane. Bam! She draws first blood. Uh-oh, Starminx is down. And Ripghoul is taking serious damage. Titan moves in with a wet keyboard for the counter gank. Now Pixel has turned tail and bails into the crowd. Oh my, folks, look out! Aspie is hurtling insults and water bottles with supreme accuracy, forcing Lech to seek cover. And dead last is white-eyed and has no vision on Ripghoul, who's slipped away. Watch out! Bad Mizniz is coming down the mid lane with a game chair over her head. She lets it fly. Ouch! Direct strike on Vertigo. Well, kiss my sweet Halo. That chair attack has ended the battle because here comes tournament security. The crowd cheered like it was the greatest battle they'd ever seen. That's going to be game over, Jim said, slapping a hand on his table. I have to say, this is one of the most exciting skirmishes we've seen in tournament history, Larry said. And now some event leaders are joining security on the set. Alex looked up. Sure enough, various officials were storming the stage. Among them were two people every team feared more than the decimator, the tournament moderators. A hush fell over the crowd, and the fighting teams gave in, letting themselves be taken into custody. Alex wondered how things could go so bad so fast. Only moments ago he'd been on the cusp of his ultimate victory. Now he was being heckled and hauled away for some dreadful punishment like the ultimate loser. Chapter 3. When the team entered the back office, they expected the worst. The room was nondescript, a beige rectangle with 5 plastic chairs. They sat down anxiously, looking like prisoners awaiting their executions. The first moderator, who looked and dressed like an adult-sized Charlie Brown, stepped forward and shook his head admonishingly, glancing at each of the Modfia in turn. Guys, he said, I think we all agree that things got out of control. The second moderator had long red hair tied back in a ponytail and radiated a surfer dude vibe. He cleared his throat before introducing himself and his counterpart. My gamertag is Slipstream76 and this is Beadfart69. He made the introduction straight-faced, with no hint of sarcasm. Moderator Beanfart69 chugged from a slurp ice cup while still shaking his head. He scrolled through his computer tablet as if searching for something important. When he found it, he nodded to his colleague. Well then, Slipstream76 said, let's get started. Alex and the team didn't know what that meant. They squirmed in their chairs, preparing for the worst. Moderator Beanfart69 smiled bleakly and began reading from the Tournament Rules and Regulations Manual. Many minutes later, Alex knew they were in big trouble. The mod droned on, with no sign of stopping. His team was being subjected to a verbal waterboarding, the likes of which he'd never imagined possible. He had a sudden desire to puncture his eardrums. Posting content that is deemed offensive, unlawful, harmful, threatening, abusive, or racially, ethically, or otherwise objectionable. Cassie cupped her hands over her ears and moaned. I know all the rules by heart. Please stop. Transmitting content that contains a virus, corrupted data, Trojan horse, data bot, keystroke logger, worm, time bomb, cancel bot or mine, or scraping personal information ... Beanfart69 droned. I can't take another minute of this, Ms. groaned. The entire team was writhing in their seats. Stop it! Can't you see you're torturing my friends, you heartless bastards? Genghis hissed. Please don't interrupt us. Slipstream76 intoned. We'd have to start over, Beanfart69 finished. But if you'd just review the video, I think you'll agree we didn't violate any of the rules you just highlighted. Aspie pleaded desperately with her eyes, as if her argument would make some impact on the two strange men. Alex tried to help her. It was self-defense, he said. Ms. pointed an accusatory finger. They almost killed our rogue, Jed snickered. Totally unprovoked, I swear. His swollen lip curled into the half-serious grin of a cool dude, enjoying the chaos he'd created. Alex suppressed a laugh. Jed notoriously cherry-picked the rules he followed. Alex tolerated it because it gave their team an edge. Aspie continued to try her best to redirect the moderators, which pleased Alex. For once, her encyclopedic knowledge of the game might come in handy. Please, can you just cut to the relevant infractions? She asked. Moderator Beanfart69 cocked an eyebrow. That is agreeable. We'll proceed to the section outlining your violations, Slipstream76 agreed, nodding to his colleague. The champion code is clear. Severe unsportsmanlike conduct includes intentionally breaking tournament equipment, defacing the tournament stage, or disrupting the venue. Check, 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 Ms. said. Those crazy noodle snorters did all that. Aspie twisted in her seat. Ms., you're not helping. Ms. cursed under her breath. Yeah, okay, sorry. Beanfarts69 nodded and said, The penalty for any violent behavior is disqualification. In addition, it may be necessary to contact the authorities. Or even the game master himself, Slipstream76 added. Well, guys, come on, we're sorry, Genghis pleaded. Arrest us, I don't care, Alex said. Just don't disqualify us. We are too close to winning the whole tournament. Ms. flashed a concerned look at Alex. Are you serious right now? They're not calling the police, Jed said bluntly. Mr. Rivers is correct. For now, we ban your team from any further league play, Slipstream76 said. Don't worry. The tournament organizers will file no charges with local law enforcement. But we informed your sponsor, Beanfart69 added. He'll be here shortly to take custody of you. Alex flashed a worried look at the rest of the team. They responded with similar expressions of fear. Their sponsor was worse than the police. Well, our job is done, Beanfart69 said. He stowed his tablet in his backpack, grabbed his giant slurp ice, and turned to leave. Don't despair, young ones, Slipstream76 said. There's a place for budding champions like you in this cosmos. It's just not here. Not anymore. The mods eyed the team one last time, gave everyone a half smile, and followed each other out of the room. Chapter 4. Ray Sparkles Malone, wearing dark sunglasses and a Walter White pork pie hat, had a lot on his plate. He was a short, scrawny 13-year-old kid navigating the battleground called junior high school. Clearly, that was enough for the average boy. Sparkles, however, was anything but average. His chief priority was his ridiculously lucrative illegal fireworks business, a baked goods side hustle, and a host of other investments that needed managing. He was, by all counts, a peewee-sized godfather who controlled the junior high school black market. If you wanted a case of illegal bottle rockets, he was your man. If you needed contraband candy or cereal, he was your man. Did your parents refuse to buy that latest pair of high-end sneakers or the newest video game? Show Sparkles the cash, and he'd get you what you wanted. In the early, desperate days of forming the Modfia, Alex had sought him out for financing. It had been a terrible mistake. You 5 losers are a problem I didn't need. Not today, Sparkles grumbled. Ray, I can explain, Alex replied. Not necessary, I understand. You had a fight during your Dungeons & Dragons game? Did I get that right? Someone on the other team hurt your feelings? Still in their chairs, the team stared at Sparkles, too scared to say a word. He glared back at them over his black Ray-Bans. Who started the fight? Was it Mr. Dogbreath here? Sparkles asked, pointing at Genghis. Or do I have the wrong bowl of kimchi? Genghis sighed and stared at his sneakers. Chump, Ray's burly henchman, dragged Lech, the leader of the creep cannibals, into the room. Jed perked up. That's him! He started the whole thing! Shut up, Rivers! Sparkles motioned Chump, who produced a pan of cupcakes decorated with brilliant blue icing and set them down on the table next to his boss. Please don't hurt me, Lech begged. Hurt you? Who said anything about hurting you? Sparkles mused. These are cupcakes, my man. One of my brand new business ventures that is really taking off. People love these things. Each one is iced with 99.9% pure cane sugar from the hippie communes of Boulder, Colorado. Nothing hurtful about them. Well, okay, but I actually prefer boba, Lech said meekly. Sparkles growled and signaled to Chump. No one turns down my blue ice. Chump grabbed the largest cupcake in the pan, then grabbed Lech. Ignoring his pitiful protest, he pried open the lanky gamer's mouth and force-fed him the treat. Then he stuffed a second in his mouth, and finally a third. Lech collapsed in a puddle of gooey Twitter-blue drool, moaning like a wounded animal. Sweet Jesus, Alex said. What's wrong with him? Sparkles smiled approvingly while opening a small zippered case. Diabetic coma. Nothing a little insulin won't take care of. If I was willing to give him a dose. He showed the group a syringe filled with medicine. Lech whimpered a plea for mercy. Sparkles teased Lech with the insulin, waving the syringe over him as if he might offer it. At the last second, Sparkles coldly dropped it on the ground. Lech pawed at it, struggling to grab it as if it were an antidote to poison. But before Lech could retrieve it, Sparkles stepped on the syringe, crushing it. Its liquid contents stained the floor. The team gasped in shock. That's messed up, man, Ms. said, turning away. You'd kill this kid over a video game? Aspie asked. This idiot messed up my chance of winning a lot of money, Sparkle said, then looked at Chump. How much was it? Chump scratched his head and began muttering to himself. The team snickered as the big bruiser counted on his fingers. The grand prize is $250,000, but there's a 25% bonus based on attendance, Chump explained, looking at the corner of the room as he tallied the loss. If you factor in early estimates, that could be $1 million. Everyone stared at Chump, dumbfounded. This Neanderthal was an impressive accountant. We can win that money for you, Ray, Alex blurted, thinking there had to be a way out of this. He just needed to think. Maybe talk to the mods again. No, Garcia, you can't. And that really, really irritates me, because you promised such a big payout. I bought you loads of equipment, 5 new super-fast computers, bedazzled team jackets with my logo, and paid all the ridiculous entry fees. You're in deep this time, and if we don't go along with my plan to make this right, it's blue ice for every one of you losers. Alex had never seen Sparkles this mad. He was genuinely scared, glancing over at Genghis. Genghis took that as a clue to step in. Mr. Malone, Sparkles, sir, Genghis said awkwardly. We all really appreciate everything you've done for us so far, but Alex isn't lying when he says we can still win this. So you're high as usual, huh, Genghis? Don't you understand? They ejected your butts for good. Sparkles was getting angrier by the second. He leaned over Genghis, who winced as spittle hit him in the face. Do you have any idea how many junior high bake sales I have to muscle in on to clear $1 million? $0.2 million would be more accurate, Chump said. Shut it, Chump, Sparkles yelled. Just give us some more time. We can win you that money, Alex pleaded. Sparkles shook his head. No, I'm turning you losers over to new management. Without my input? Aspie was indignant. Yeah, Mrs. Esperger's, definitely, without your input, Sparkles said. Ray Malone was vicious with his offensive insults and tactics. The middle school mobster didn't seem to care about hurting their feelings or their lives. He turned and left the room. But it only took a few seconds before he was back with an unexpected solution. Someone dressed as Bonegrin, one of the most famous characters in Cosmic Champions, followed Sparkles back into the room. Alex felt dwarfed by the champion, but also transfixed as he trudged toward them. He was 7 feet tall, a solid mass of muscle with bulging veins, and towered over Sparkles like a giant. He breathed through his open mouth, exposing a terrifying set of teeth and 2 saber-like tusks sticking out either side of his gray-green face. His crimson leather tunic stood out against the black boots, leather gauntlets, and leggings. He held a macabre trident, said to be made from an alien creature's skeleton. It was immediately identifiable as Bonegrin's signature weapon. Even so, what did this bad cosplayer have to do with Sparkles' plan? Far out, man! That's the best Bonegrin I've ever seen! Genghis said, giving him a thumbs up. Genghis snacked on a piece of licorice as Bonegrin stepped up uncomfortably close, his thick lips pulled back over his yellow fangs. He seemed to smile and snarl at the same time as he sniffed the team like they were his next meal. The glare gave Alex pause. Man, those eyes! A little too real, if you ask me, Ms. added, pushing her chair back several feet. What the heck is going on here? This shiz is getting weirder by the minute. I like the costume, but the breath, man, ruins it, Jed said, fanning a hand in front of his face. Something crawled up inside you and died. Everyone glared at Jed. The tolerance for humor was gone. The second person to enter the room was just as frightening as Bonegrin. Nightbane, who had the elegance of a vampire bat on a wedding cake, was another popular champion. Like Aspie, she was a female elf, but of a much darker, evil race called the Bloodstone Banshee, which was known for their demonic magic. She stood about 5'6" and had a lean, athletic frame. She was dressed in a tight leather catsuit, thigh-high boots, and a leather corset that showed off her moon-white cleavage. Pieces of molded plate mail protected the rest of her body. Nightbane's face was a perfect heart shape, with features that seemed chiseled from marble, a perfect nose, lips, and ears. She had alabaster skin and coal-colored hair. Her spooky eyes stared through her thick lashes and glowed yellow like a wolf. Her only weapons seemed to be a long dagger strapped to one leg and a barbed whip curled and tied to her waist. What a pathetic group of losers, she said in her husky growl. She slinked across the room and sauntered down the line of chairs, trailing the scent of burnt hair. She inspected each of them like a seductive general. Talk about a twisted sister, Jed joked as she brushed past. Nightbane spun on her boots' heels, hissed at him like a feral cat, then rejoined Bonegrin at the front of the room. Okay, good deal, Sparkle said. Seems you bozos recognized your new owners. They said you would. The team turned to each other, agitated, whispering questions. What the heck was this all about? Did he say owners? Well then, if everything is settled, let's wrap this up. I've got more important things to do, Sparkles said, turning to Nightbane. Did you get the final numbers from Chump? Yes, and we're prepared to increase the offer to ensure absolute discretion, Nightbane said as she surveyed the team. Your realm's gold is but paper. For your trouble, let's make it 2 million and throw in a dozen of those cupcakes. They're so delicious. Sparkles leaned in, licking his lips. I like how you do business, Ms. Knight. You have a deal. He motioned to Chump to give her the remaining cupcakes. Wait a minute. Is this your solution? Dung Breath and Nurse Nightmare? Alex asked. I mean, who are they? Two psychotic cosplayers? How are they our new sponsors? Sparkles flashed his indignant eyes at Alex. Mr. Bone and Ms. Knight are scouts for a new team called the Griefers. Most importantly, they agreed to buy out your contract and settle your debt. I would shut up if I were you. You don't want to mess this up. He pointed at poor Lech, who was still passed out on the floor. Come on, Ray, this is insane. The Griefers are old game lore. That's fiction. I've never heard of these guys. If they were legit, one of us would know. These guys are scamming you. Sparkles ignored Alex and addressed Nightbane. Just to be clear, they're damaged goods. You okay with that? Miz was offended. Hey, what the heck does that mean? Nightbane licked her lips. They will rise to the challenge, or be culled. Yeah, well, whatever. Sparkles tugged at his imaginary goatee. Just so it's understood, I don't do refunds. We know who and what they are, Bonegrin said matter-of-factly. The game engine generated profiles about each of them. Oh yeah? Genghis asked. He looked genuinely curious. What do the profiles say? Bonegrin laughed. That you are the 5 best worst players in the league. The 5 best worst? Miz repeated. Screw you, Crypt Keeper. Wait! Aspie straightened up like she was asking a question in class. Have you been spying on us? Nightbane walked up to Aspie and leaned in, examining her from various angles as if she were a plant that might need watering. No, Miss Wells. The game engine knows all, and sees all. Spying isn't necessary when you spend so much time hiding in the game. I don't believe you. How could a game know everything about us? Aspie said. Nightbane cupped her hand around Aspie's face. She caressed her cheek for a few seconds, then pulled away too quickly. Aspie yelped. Blood trickled down from a red scratch on her cheek. Nightbane caught the blood with her fingernail and licked it. You want proof, little elf? I'm happy to show you. Chapter 5. To begin, we will review your team's wilderness expert, Nightbane said. Mr. Jed Rivers, also known as Rip Ghoul. A hunter and a rogue. A thief and an assassin. He's one of your team's most fearless players, one who can't seem to follow a rule to save his life. Nightbane nodded to Bonegrin. When Bonegrin nodded back, she waved her long fingers over Jed's head, and a tapestry of magical energy appeared, displaying Jed's memories. Genghis leaned back in his chair. Whoa, man! Far out! Indeed, Mr. Cho. Bloodstone magic can siphon thoughts, dreams, and even nightmares from almost anyone, especially creatures so basic as you, Earthborn. Alex couldn't believe what he was seeing. He didn't know how Nightbane was pulling this off, but it went way beyond simple cosplay. Time rewound, and within the mystical blaze of images, a younger Jed Rivers appeared. The team leaned forward, as if they'd just sat down to watch a great television show. The scene cut to a sparsely bearded hipster working the counter of a neighborhood convenience store. It appeared to be late at night. The store was vacant except for one customer, a hoodie-clad kid screwing around with the drink machines. After several seconds, the magical memory changed its point of view, catching the profile of the customer. It was Jed, and it was obvious he was in the middle of some serious mischief. He perused the slurp ice machines that lined the walls, churning a rainbow of frozen concoctions. Instead of serving himself a drink, Jed turned on every machine and stepped back, watching as the frozen slush overflowed their spill trays and flooded the floor. When he seemed satisfied with his vandalism, he laughed and headed for the exit. Just as Jed reached the front door, the store attendant reacted. "Hey, man, what the heck are you doing?" The attendant peered over the rows of candy and snacks and saw the mess of frozen sludge and a guilty-looking Jed. "Hold it right there, kid." Jed rushed out, laughing as the attendant slogged his way through the rainbow-colored mess to turn off the machines. "Ripghoul is an expert at creating diversions," Nightbane observed. "A true rogue with a chaotic neutral alignment." Bonegrin scoffed. The scene cut to the back room of the store as the attendant gathered cleaning supplies and the yellow mop bucket. From the shadows of the back room, Jed dropped from the ceiling like a ninja and made his way quietly to a box on the attendant's desk. It was full of gift cards. Jed quickly stuffed them into every pocket he had. "The boy has potential," Bonegrin growled, as if someone had forced him to give the compliment, "yet squanders his skills on thievery." Nightbane grinned. "Agreed, but his disregard for the rules gives him an edge." Before Jed could escape with his loot, 2 cops entered from the back of the store, surprising him. Without missing a beat, he thrust his hands on his hips and mesmerized them with an impromptu Jedi mind trick. "What took you 2 so long?" Jed complained. "I called 30 minutes ago." The cops couldn't get a word out. "The vandal is still in the store, destroying my slush machines," Jed said, pointing past them. "He's crazy. Maybe if you move faster, you might catch him." Agitated and perhaps embarrassed, the cops rushed past Jed and made a quick arrest of the poor, confused attendant. Meanwhile, Jed used the confusion to grab more gift cards. Before anyone was the wiser, he slipped out the back door and faded into the night like a phantom. Now the magical video shifted to images of the Cosmic Champions game. Jed's avatar, Ripghoul, the ninja-like rogue, brandishing shadow-weave daggers, hid behind a warwood tree in the thick wilderness. Nearby, 2 non-player characters that looked exactly like the convenience store cops had cornered a group of allied skulks. Ripghoul flung his weapons, killing the NPCs instantly. A smile curled up over Bonegrim's fangs. "A cunning and ruthless hunter." Bonegrin grunted his approval. "Who enjoys the art of deception?" Nightbane agreed. Ripghoul fired a grappling line from a small crossbow and swung away into the forest. Nightbane was satisfied and lowered her hands, ending the magical display. Nightbane approached Miz next. Her long fingers danced over Miz, and maroon energy swirled around her head, changing the scene. Nightbane purred. "Here we have the team tank, Mizzy Summerfield Howard." The team watched as a magical camera snaked into a crowded dive bar. On stage, a tribute band called Back in Black covered a thunderous AC/DC song. A drunk headbanger pushed up to the stage and heckled the bassist, which was a terrible mistake because it was Miz. "The fat dyke can play!" he screamed, throwing up some devil horns. Without missing a note, Miz leaned over and swung her bass guitar into the skinhead's face, knocking out a few teeth. When he hurled a racist insult, she leapt like an Olympic diver into the audience. Fists flew, blood sprayed, and bones broke. And when the crowd and chaos finally cleared, Miz stood over the thoroughly beaten punk. She was totally unscathed. "A worthy opponent," Bonegrin said, nodding approvingly. "She engages the enemy explosively." "Perhaps she's provoked too easily," Nightbane wondered. "Such raw power should be used wisely. She leaves herself vulnerable to reprisals." They watched as the skinhead's angry friends rushed Miz. When she disappeared under a new dog pile, the team gasped and leaned forward, hoping Miz was okay. But before her fate was revealed, the scene cross-faded to images of the game. Bad Mrs. Mrs. Amazonian avatar erupted from underneath a pile of enemy skulks, swinging her battle axe like a buzzsaw. It was clear she was in the middle of farming game speak for killing skulks, the auto-generated minions that both defended and attacked players. Gold credits spun like she'd hit a jackpot, and bodies piled up as she cleared Deadman's Road all the way to the first enemy tower. She withstands tremendous damage, making her a tough offensive player, Nightbane observed. She's the only one of these 5 who seems to be a natural warrior. Next, Nightbane turned to Aspie. Melanie Wells is a smart and beautiful young woman with Asperger's syndrome, a diagnosis that keeps her socially ostracized. The images of Ms. morphed into a flyover of Aspie walking home from school. A montage of several sad scenes played. Her alone at lunch, her alone between classes, and her alone in her bedroom at night. The string of images ended with Aspie in the corner of the school library reading a manual for Cosmic Champions. She seemed obsessed with the game. In the next scene, she attended school cosplaying as her new elf avatar. At lunch, she sat at one crowded cafeteria table. Immediately, she was heckled and humiliated by the other kids and fled the room in tears. She's a budding genius but can't process simple social cues. Bonegrin shrugged. What good is she if the team rejects her? Her only outlet seems to be the game. Because of that, she's written detailed guides about it, Nightbane said. They are very popular among aspiring champions. To the shock of the team, they see their friend is the writer and blogger behind some of their favorite game content. That's you? Ms. asked. She was amazed. I've got 5 of your guides. Watch your videos all the time. What the heck, dude? Why didn't you tell any of us? Aspie looked at her feet and shrugged. Her lack of confidence may be her undoing, Nightbane said. Despite this, she bleeds strategy. Bonegrin sniffed her like he smelled something spoiled. Dangerous, this one, festering with buried rage. Even though she lacks the confidence to lead, her skills are impeccable. Her mind, unmatched. Nightbane waved a hand. New images flashed before the team. A female elf swung through the treetops, stalking a group of skulks. The skulks advanced through the jungle aggressively until a volley of fiery arrows showered down like a hailstorm. Flipping out of cover, Aspie landed heroically in the center of an open space to take out the surviving minions. When she drew her bowstring back, 3 arrows were already knocked. Dang, she looks cool, Jed cheered. Aspie looked up at him, then blushed. She captures the imagination of her teammates, Bonegrin said, but not their hearts. Perhaps because she can't accept her true potential, Nightbane agreed. The images shifted once again. The depiction of Aspie, the badass elf, hiking the jungle trail faded into lonely Melanie Wells, navigating her school hallway. She disappeared into the raucous crowd as the students changed classes. Bonegrin crossed his arms and scoffed. Her lack of confidence makes her a weak leader, and because of this, the team suffers. The team's healer seems to have many of the elf's same flaws, Nightbane said, pointing accusingly at Genghis. She moved on, conjuring more memories as she did. In contrast to Aspie, Louis Cho was popular among his fellow students. I find it hard to believe this odd, intoxicated knave is the team's main defensive player, Bonegrin said, shaking his head. His enthusiasm is disgusting, but he is a highly skilled healer. Nightbane's images showed Genghis in the center of the school courtyard, sitting in the lotus pose, his hands resting lightly on the buxom chest of a beautiful girl. Many curious onlookers gathered around him, watching. I'm passing the healing power of my chi into your third chakra, Genghis said. Oh, I can feel it, the girl said, giggling. Can you move it any lower? Certainly, he muttered. Envision yourself under a gentle waterfall. Let the sensation of the warm water envelop your entire body. Oh, Gangi, the girl purred. You know just what to do. As the team watched and giggled, the courtyard and high school morphed into a castle, bringing the action back to the game. In the guise of his online avatar, Genghis levitated off the ground, riding a funnel of mystical energy. As he moved, he spun his staff, weaving new blooms of mana into razor-sharp lotus blossoms that spun out like throwing stars toward a wave of threatening skulks. In front of him, Team Modfia did battle, viciously defending their home base from an onslaught of attackers. As they fought, their health and mana bars diminished. However, Genghis expertly cast one healing spell after another, keeping his teammates in the battle. His fellow offensive players rely heavily on his support, Bonegrin observed. His deep-seated insecurities stifle him. Otherwise, he'd be the heart of the team, making them very powerful indeed, Nightbane mused. As it is, it's a heart easily cut out. Bonegrin and Nightbane moved on to Alex, the only team member they hadn't analyzed. Alex Garcia, also known as Titan, the team's de facto leader, Bonegrin said. The elf's got the title, but this one calls the shots. Yes, it seems Titan here has more charisma. Isn't that right, Mr. Garcia? Nightbane asked. What did you say? I'm sorry, but Mr. Bonegroin's insanely accurate genitalia distracted me, Alex joked, trying to change the subject. Shouldn't you wear a better jockstrap or something? Everyone on the team laughed, which was good. What these two creepy cosplayers were saying may be true, but he didn't want to upset the team any more than they already were. Somehow, they needed to stick together long enough to get out of Sparkle's insane deal. You know, I've just never thought about champions having boy parts, Kinga snickered. Bonegrin was surprised, even embarrassed. He glared at them to shut everyone up. When that failed, he raised his trident and zapped the team with a quick jolt of electrical energy. Just enough pain to get their attention. Dang, man! Miz yelled, rubbing her arms. That stung! If you do that again, I'm gonna knock those janky horns off your head. Yeah, you big meathead, Jed yelled. How are you doing that anyway? Is there a stun gun jammed up in that crappy prop? This is no toy, Bonegrin roared. Test me again, and you'll feel the full wrath of the Kraken's tooth. Ignoring the argument, Nightbane continued her enchantment, and new images of Alex's life flashed on her magical screen. The first montage revealed Alex grinding out his job at the mall. A series of dreary days at Game Blaster showed the boy selling expensive games to agitated parents, repairing broken consoles, trading in defective products, and enduring the humiliation of serving entitled, wealthy kids who had no clue what working was really like. The worst part of it seemed to be Alex's boss. All the Game Blaster employees had secretly named him Bob the Bastard. It was obvious that Bob the Bastard was a sociopath in training, and he loved picking on his underlings. Especially Alex Garcia. I saw you on Twitch, Garcia. I can't believe you play Cosmic Champions. Bob sneered, not looking up from his task of checking in a stack of returned rentals. By the way, you suck big time. I mean, you're one of the crappiest players who ever played that ridiculous game. Your best magic spell must be Butt of Constant Wiping, because all you do is slap diapers on low-level players. Bob laughed at his own joke. Alex turned red and looked to be on the verge of a meltdown. All the Modfia were insulted and immediately hated Bob the Bastard. "Speaking of cosmic champions, I need a few days off if that's okay," Alex said, hoping beyond hope Bob might show some mercy. "What? Why would you need time off? You're not going to the tournament, are you?" Bob laughed again, but this time it was completely forced. A sign that he was slipping into one of his sadistic moods. "Don't humiliate yourself, Garcia. Better you stay home, eat tacos, and beat your piñata." "I'm going to that tournament," Alex muttered. "We have a decent team that's counting on me. If you go, you'll embarrass yourself in front of the whole world. I mean, isn't it obvious? Your suckiness is at peak suckage." "We worked hard and qualified fair and square," Alex said. "Please, it's just a few days." "No, I don't think so. You're scheduled to close the store that weekend, Cinderella. No ball for you." "Come on, Bob. I'll close 2 weeks straight when I get back." "I'm telling you, Garcia, if you go to that tournament, don't even bother coming back here. You are fired." Alex couldn't look. This montage was humiliating. Plus, he'd never told the team he'd given up his job to come to the tournament. So pathetic to see a warrior of his potential disrespected in such a foul way, Nightbane said, shivering her shoulders for effect. "I would rip the spine from this Bob the Bastard and feast on his kidneys." Bonegrin laughed. "Don't underestimate Mr. Garcia," Nightbane said, leaning in. "The great Titan has pledged to become the best Cosmic Champions player ever. He wants to be legendary." Alex said nothing, but the mention of his long-held goal sent a brief panic through him. That dream seemed to slip further away every minute they remained in this room. "There's only one worthy of that title," Bonegrin said, genuine fear flashing in his eyes. "Pray you never meet our master in actual battle." "Whatever. No one wants it more than me. You'll see," Alex shouted. Something in him had boiled over. His teammates looked at him with concern. But Nightbane seemed pleased by Alex's passionate defense. "That's the spirit, Mr. Garcia. It's that kind of blind faith that creates real champions. Maybe you do have such greatness within you. We shall see soon enough." Chapter 6. Just as the images of Alex's life faded from view, Sparkles finished a call on his phone. It seemed he'd never once watched the magical display of memories, but he was ready to wrap up the handoff to Nightbane. "Just so we're clear," Sparkles said, hooking a thumb in Bonegrin's direction. "Boneface over here has developed a new esports league. You guys are going to play for him, or you'll end up like this drooling doofus." He pointed down at Lech, who was still lying on the floor as if comatose. Blue bubbles dribbled out of the corners of his mouth. "That poor little dude is barely alive," Genghis observed. "Do all of you losers understand?" Sparkles yelled. "You've got new sponsors whether you like it or not." Chump crossed his arms and glared for added effect. Everyone nodded. They understood. Nightbane appeared ready to close the deal as well. "Well, Mr. Sparkles, let's finalize the payment," Nightbane asked as she pulled out a small leather bag. "Surely you accept gold?" "What? Heck no!" Sparkles' eyebrows narrowed. "I told you both. No Bitcoin, no weird trades, nothing traceable. I want cash. Cold, hard cash." "As you wish." Nightbane was nonplussed. "But since I'm not from this world, I don't carry any of these things you call cash." "Bonegrin, can you take care of him, please?" Bonegrin pointed his trident at Sparkles and Chump and blasted them both with a magical burst of energy. Sparkles slammed into the wall and ragdolled to the floor. Chump collapsed beside him. The team jumped out of their chairs, mouths agape. "What the heck was that?" Alex was amazed but also worried for Sparkles. Ray! Ray, can you hear me? Mr. Sparkles can't hear you. But don't worry. He isn't dead. He will recover once we're gone, Nightbane said, as if the events of the last few minutes had all been a regular occurrence. Alex wondered if he had lost his mind. Possibly. Was this all some elaborate magic trick? Then again, everything around him felt very real. He just didn't understand how these two psychotic cosplayers were pulling this off. Now that I've scanned each of your minds, Nightbane said, stepping in front of the team, I know one thing to be true. Each of you desires another shot at winning the game. If we give you that second chance, will you redeem yourselves? Hells yeah, let's do it, Genghis cheered, the eternal optimist. Everyone glared at him until he wilted. Another chance? Redeem ourselves? What does that even mean? Alex asked. More importantly, how do we do it? That question was quickly answered when Bonegrin produced a familiar object from the game. It was a rare portal key said to open magical doors to other dimensions of existence. The device that allowed everyday kids to enter the game, choose an avatar, and learn the skills necessary to become champions. The opening of every Cosmic Champions game included the animated activation of this key. They'd seen it 1,000,000 times on their computer screens, but it was quite another thing to see it in real life. I'm pretty sure that is an actual portal key, Aspie said. She was mesmerized and tried to reach out and touch it. Bonegrin slapped her hand away. I am the designated herald, he growled. Only I can wield the portal key. Bonegrin raised one of his clawed hands. The portal key hovered in the air, spinning on its axis before slamming into his flattened palm. Then, through some kind of strange sorcery, it sank into his very flesh. What it left was a glowing sigil. It looked like a golden tattoo of the key. Bonegrin winced as if it was painful, but then was very pleased at the result. That's not possible, Miz said. This has to be a prank. Earthborn are a naive lot, Bonegrin snarled. Too young, too foolish. They'll never make it on the battle moon. He was behind them now, shoving them forward. Our job is to find potential combatants for training and get them to the station. Crane and the others can sort them out and see if they are truly worthy of battling Malvexus, Nightbane said. Bonegrin laughed. Pray, you are not Earthborn. My master will drink your blood like wine. Where are you taking us? Alex asked. Surely you can guess by now. Nightbane laughed, then nodded to Bonegrin. Bonegrin thrust his glowing hand forward, and the air exploded with otherworldly color and light. It was nothing less than a mystical portal shimmering in the air before them. It smelled like burning sulfur and gave off a dull heat, something that should have been impossible. Before they could say another word, Bonegrin turned his trident on its side and used it to shove the entire team through the opening in one clean sweep. He then stepped through after them, and Nightbane followed. As she disappeared into the magic, the portal collapsed, and they were gone. That concludes Part 1 of Cosmic Champions. Please like and subscribe, and follow this channel to get the next installment of this exciting story. Visit Mark at JonesMarkC on all the socials for additional information and links to other free audiobooks and the next book in this series. Thanks for listening.